Today is Monday, June 11th, and this is the ADM Investor Services Weekly Market Kickoff. Today's guests are Alan Bush, Senior Financial Economist here at ADM, and Steve Freed, Vice President of Grain Research. Alan, why did the euro currency advance to 3 weeks highs against the US dollar last week?
Well, what appears to be going on is that the European Central Bank is possibly going to discuss the end of their quantitative easing program, or at least a scale back. Now, they have their meeting this Thursday, so it appears that the ECB is going to be a bit less accommodative, so that equates to somewhat higher interest rates, and higher interest rates then is supportive to the euro currency.
And in spite of the less than successful Group of Seven summit this weekend, why is there no flight to quality buying coming into the Treasury futures markets?
Well, clearly the G7 meeting was somewhat of a disappointment. So apparently traders are looking beyond that to something a bit more beneficial down the road. So with no flight to quality buying coming in, I think the market is looking ahead to something better. As you know, the markets tend to discount events in the future. So I think there's something good going to happen, and that is being reflected in the lack of flight to quality buying coming into not just the treasuries, but even the yen, which is considered to be a flight to quality vehicle, that is lower today. So something good is going to happen down the road.
Great. And President Donald Trump refused to sign the covenant from the G7 industrialized nations meeting over the weekend. Why are stock index futures higher on this negative news?
I think for the same reason that there's no flight to quality buying coming in. In fact, it was just last week that the NASDAQ made new record highs. We also had the Russell 2000 at new record highs. Could it be that the other indices are not that far away from new highs as well? So markets are discounting a lot of these geopolitical problems, possibly thinking that to one degree or another they will be resolved. So once again, good things appear to be happening ahead for us for the indices, and it's very beneficial, I would have to say, for the outlook for the stock index futures.
Steve, on to grains. Soybean and corn prices are near season lows. Will they continue to drop, and what is needed to push prices even higher?
I think the grains are like the opposite of the financial markets. They're looking at some of these trade issues as negative to demand for U.S. Commodities. And it's also raining across the Midwest. It's very hard for the market to sustain any uptrend when we get rains here in June. The market thinks that we could still go lower. Maybe another 20 cents in corn, beans, and wheat if there's no positive weather news.
With the USDA report this week, what is the market looking for?
Not a lot of changes. They could lower slightly maybe some of the corn numbers as far as carryouts are concerned. Maybe old crop soybeans because of better demand out of the U.S. And then we're watching to see what they do to the Russian wheat crop because it should be lower. But in general, it doesn't make a dramatic change to move the market trend.
And wheat futures are holding up an uptrend line. Why is that?
I think the number one reason is that you've got a drought going on in Russia, and they keep lowering the Russian potential crop, which in essence, the world wheat prices determine on what the Russian prices are. The only problem is we haven't seen a rally in Russian wheat prices. They're still the cheapest in the world, and we haven't seen any pickup in U.S. export demand because of that. So it's kind of muted, and so right now wheat's probably a follower to the other markets rather than a leader.
And what are the keys to U.S. imposing tariffs on China?
The deadline is Friday, and so one of the things people are watching for is the U.S. and North Korean summit. If something positive comes out of that, maybe one of the things would be the U.S. will not impose tariffs on China. But right now, the speculation is that they may still impose tariffs, which could hurt demand for U.S. soybeans by China.
And finally, any news on the U.S. summer weather outlook?
Well, right now, if you look outside, it's wet. And I think that the 2-week forecast right now suggests that we might go into a pattern where it's going to be hot and wet, which if I'm a corn plant or a soybean plant, that's really good. So right now we're trying to decide if it's hot and dry where that's going to be. It might just be in Kansas and Nebraska, with the rest of the Midwest hot and wet, which could provoke record yields in the U.S. this year.
Great. Please remember that the opinions expressed here today are solely the opinions of our guests and are not necessarily the opinions of ADM Investor Services or Archer Daniels Midland Company. If you have any questions or comments or would like to know more about our services, please contact us at www.admis.com.